when two people, any two people, it happens also, it's like Lennon and McCartney, you know, it's like when any two people get together and agree on a vision and get excited together, it's the sky's the limit. You know, it's so much more powerful than one person.
Welcome to Separate Bathrooms. I'm Cam-Daddo.
Oh, that was your real professional voice then. That was the real smooth FM.
Really?
Oh, yeah, that was smooth. It's nice. I'm Ale-Daddo. I can never quite match you. Oh.
You don't need to match me. You're not supposed to just do
In the
your
smoothness.
thing. No, but you do your thing, which is, I think that's why this works with us, because you do your thing and I do my thing as best as I can.
One day we'll have to get our... Actually, we actually have interviewed our youngest a while back, but she does a brilliant impersonation of her dad on the radio. This is Cameron Daddo, Smooth FM, Cameron Daddo. It's so good.
Okay, so what you don't know is that I've been asked by the powers that be at Smooth FM is that we do a Daddo family Christmas on Smooth FM.
What?
Yeah. So,
this is news?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that we as a family will choose the playlist for Christmas.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, it's a Smooth family Christmas. I hope I'm not blowing this for our publicity department, but I know that everyone on Christmas Day, you know, Dave Campbell, Mel, Richard, myself, and we're all going to sort of bring the family to Christmas Day.
That's so cool. I love that. Speaking of cool,
yeah,
I think we possibly have two of the coolest people about to come into the bathroom. I'm really excited, like seriously excited about these two. I mean, I'm always excited. This one has, I think we were described as culturally significant the other day by Eddie Perfect. These two are definitely culturally significant.
Yes.
We have Ben Lee and Ione Skye. So Ben is, you probably know this, but just so in case you didn't, Australian musician and actor. Ben began his career as a musician at the age of 14. He was kind of the boy genius with the Sydney band Noise Addict, and then he's focused on his solo career since then. He's gone on to write huge hits such as Catch My Disease and We're All in This Together. He's got a quote that I love. I love quotes, as you can tell. He writes, "I'm on a constant quest to externalize the music in my head. My love of a perfect lyric set to the perfect melody." It sums up a lot about Ben.
We're going to find that out. And of course, Ione is an actress who's been in probably one of our collective most famous or most favourite films.
Yeah.
Say Anything with John Cusack.
Yeah.
She's also done Wayne's World and Arrested Development. So I don't know if we're going to be able to cover everything that we want to cover off.
Yeah.
Because she worked with River Phoenix. Say Anything was Cameron Crowe's first movie.
Yep.
And then she Arrested Development with Jason Bateman. I mean, there's a lot to cover off
Pretty
on.
huge.
And their relationship.
And she's also now quite a prolific artist that's had a lot of success in other countries and Los Angeles, plus being a mum of two. Always my favourite role in life.
So let's just find out more and bring him into the bathroom, shall we?
Ben and Ione, thank you so much and welcome to our Separate Bathrooms.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
It's always a weird introduction when you invite someone into the bathroom, but, you know, that's just how we roll, right, on this rainy Sydney day. Look, the first question we always want to know, you know, this podcast is about love. It's about relationships. So we always really want to know, the big question is, how did you two meet?
We have slightly different stories. Well, they're the same. Well, they're the same.
I think they have to be the same by nature of it. It's like, okay.
So we met. I knew of Ben because, as you probably know, he was this kid wonder, and I knew of his music already. And my group of friends, we were all fans of his. And then I was married, and he actually was on my husband's label for a second at the time. And we had this one fortuitous, I divorced since then. I'm not married to two people. But we had this one time, maybe we met, a long time ago now, 20 years ago. I met him finally when he was
25 years ago.
25.
Yeah.
So I knew of him when he was around, what was he, 14, 15, when he came out with all those songs and stuff. But at 18, he was 18, I was 8 years older. He spent the night Christmas Eve at my house because I was having a little sort of fun 20s something kind of Christmas Eve party that turned into a couple people spending the night. We weren't romantic at the time, but we became friends for about 10 years.
Yeah, we got together 10 years later.
Oh, really?
So
That's so lovely. But you built
so like the
friendship
second
first.
day, like the day I went over there, I like took mushrooms with her stepdad and brother, and I thought, this is the type of family I can get behind.
Yeah. And then I think after my first separation, you takes a few years to shake off the dust and kind of think, oh, you're not, I can maybe do this again. And I was with my brother, the same brother who took mushrooms with Ben. And I was sort of looking around like, I want to date again. Who am I going to date again? I was having lunch with my brother, and we had this kind of cool thing where Ben called my brother, because they were also friends, while I was having lunch with my brother. And something about during the conversation of saying like, gosh, I really want to date again. And then my brother was like, oh, it's Ben Lee on the phone. And it's something about that kind of connected something for me. And then I started pursuing him.
You pursued him.
It was
nice.
Well, we
Kind of.
pursued each other, but
Well,
it was sort of interesting. No one else I'd never been in a relationship with someone I'd already known.
Yeah.
So you sort of can jump in at a bit of a deeper. It's deeper automatically.
Yeah.
Because there's real gravity and sort of consequence. Like the other person's a real person, not just like a fantasy figure or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really good.
Did you have that moment where maybe that's what you're saying, Ione, for you, and Ben, did you have that moment where I went, oh, this is her. This is the one I want to spend a lot more time with?
Well, because Ione already had a daughter, I think how I fell in love with her was watching her style of parenting.
Yeah.
And I saw how accepting she was at like the deepest level. Like everyone gets frustrated with their kids. But there was a sense that I saw her with Kate, who was like, I think 4 when we started dating, that she was just sort of looking at her like, it's hard to explain. It was like she was looking at her kid like with a sense of actual mutual respect, that this was a living being in front of her. And it made me, because when you're dating at first, you don't always think of someone as like a life partner or a wife or a parent, or, it just brought that into my consciousness more. And I thought, wow, what an amazing parent. So yeah, that was sort of all happening simultaneously.
Just before we get on to your marriage, you guys knew each other for 8 years, before you got together. Was there ever a conversation like, oh, we should have done this, 5 years ago?
No, not really, because also our age gap, like Ione's 8 years older than me, and it was actually 10 years before we got together after we met. So the difference between an 18 and a 26-year-old is really different to the age gap between a 28 and a 36-year-old.
Right.
And it sort of it diminishes.
Yeah.
So it was almost like when we met in a way, like, and started considering each other as a romantic partner, it was kind of like the first time it felt appropriate. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was partly why my first marriage, I was just too young. So I was sort of happy. For me, I'm a bit of a slow learner of how to be in a relationship, I guess. So I needed all those years, I think. But sure, I mean, I'm glad I knew him, actually, now that you say that, I'm glad I knew him since he was 18, because that's really lovely. But as far as being together, it kind of works out in an interesting way, like your dating history and how that kind of affects you in your, when we got together.
Yeah, and I think getting together kind of as adults, your relationship does, I think, stand a better chance because you're a little more grounded in the reality of what makes relationships work and the way fantasy can like interrupt that. And, like a lot of that stuff you deal with in your 20s, I think coming together, we'd sort of worked through a bit of that and we're ready to get onto this like question of like, wow, what does building a life together really mean, especially for like two artists? That's sort of a minefield too, but also a blessing.
Yeah. You were married in India in a Hindu ceremony. Can you tell us why you chose that and what was the lead up to that?
Can you tell us why? I don't know.
I've seen photos and it looks incredible. It's so beautiful. You both look just divine. So
yeah. Well, Ben, he had been going, twice a year at the time when I met him, and you tell the story.
Well,
for me, like I think growing up kind of in show business, which both of us did, it can be sort of tricky. And I think we both in different ways had ways of buffering ourselves from that being our only reality. Like we both resisted going whole hog into just being like little professionals, because like you want to, it's like when kids go to college, like you need time to explore yourself. And for me, a lot of that was like quote unquote, like spiritual exploration. And those became spaces where I got to ask myself some questions about who I am outside of being a singer-songwriter. And because I started at 14, it's like it was so already ingrained in my identity. And so while I'm now at a point in my life where I don't need those containers really to have a sense of identity, at that time in my life, they were really useful for sort of just creating some space to ask big questions that I think I needed to ask. And so, I was going to India a lot and doing like meditations and chanting and all that kind of. So, it's just natural. Like I think weddings often reflect whatever people are passionate about and want to bring into their life together.
Yeah, and then I went along with it, but it was definitely fun, and I already had that first marriage, which was your classic white wedding, whatever, like Western wedding, but it was definitely a trip.
And it was with Amma, right? It was Amma.
Well, it was with not the hugging one. It was with like Amma means mother, so there's different type of gurus that call themselves that. It's like almost like. It's like the honorable or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
It was with a guru in the South.
Yeah.
At the time, which we no longer, like, we're not like a follower of Amma, but at the time,
it was important to me at the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think for us, we've come to a nice sort of resting ground in a way where I grew up in LA, and my mother, thankfully for me, she wasn't too sort of flaky and chaotic, LA type of mom, but I'd been exposed to that. And Ben grew up in a more actually conservative, kind of upbringing. And I was sort of attracted to that. And I think he must be attracted to my kind of free spirit. But I've been looking more for a kind of steady feeling. And so we kind of like, it sort of come to a nice place where, as you see in couples, sometimes you're sort of seeking something in the other person that you want,
Yeah, we're also like, we're probably secretly each more like how the other one, like I think I'm someone who was brought up in quite a lot of like just a steady type of, middle class, Jewish, eastern suburbs, like a certain type of value system. But that was like, I'm like secretly, like I chase kind of these edge experiences, and Ione's like the like free flowing flower child. He's like the secret control freak.
I think you just described our marriage, mate.
Ione, I know you are a painter. You've had a lot of success with your paintings, and both of you are so creative. Do you struggle at all with today's leaning on technology and screens to continue to be creative, specifically with your painting? I know a lot of creatives are struggling with that right now.
Yeah, I mean, in one way, the nice side is we all do with connecting on screens, and the creativity and the humor and all of the kind of, just connecting is all the beautiful side. And even doing like Instagram stories or TikToks, when they're creative, it can feel kind of fulfilling. But for sure, I find I have to force myself to read or paint and those kinds of things. But I mean, naturally, I do get saturated, and then I need a break. But I definitely, I'm sure like everybody would love to kind of balance it out more with sort of, putting the phone down and just letting your mind go, and just sort of, taking a vacation so you can be in your own space and create in that way. But yeah, for sure, it's just so easy to be immediately like entertained on the phone. But I do get oversaturated. And I feel like, I just want to like do something quiet and lovely.
Was lockdown for you guys a creative time?
Yeah, I think both. Well, we did, a long lockdown in LA, and then we had some 6 months here of none, and then we went back into lockdown in Sydney.
Right.
But they were both very creative.
Yeah, just even the house, like, back in LA, we sort of, we made it first like a jungle gym for the kid. And so she can bounce around doing her gymnastics and whatever. And I think just the way everyone like kind of, I don't know, cooked and ate. And I mean, I don't know, it was just a mix of kind of, we did play a lot of music, and you played a lot of music.
Yeah, I made a record, and then me and Ione are going to co-direct a film next year that we sort of really worked on a lot during this lockdown. But also, I think it's been a time of a lot of political education and activism too. Yep. And I think that's also creative. I think feeling compassion for your immediate community and wider community, and wanting to be part of positive change and being solution-oriented, like that's also all part of being a creative person.
Yeah, I think the stress of this whole time is like pushed a lot to the surface, of course, and then it just feels like almost impossible not to. I'm not judging, but it's always surprising the people who like didn't seem to mention anything political at this time, or you know what I mean, even just a conversation. It's not that I'm envious, but I'm sort of like, it just seems like such a big part of this time.
Yeah, it's been a big amplifier, I think, this period. So I think a lot of people revealed their true colors, like for better and worse. And that's been something, I think, to grapple with.
Ben, you've got a quote on your website where I think it's from a song, but you sort of say it sums you up. My love's confusing, but it never gets dull. Is that in your relationship as well?
You can ask my wife. I mean, to me, it's just, I think being alive and engaged and spontaneous and committed and, having an intensity to life is sort of like, that's where I believe part of my value is as a person.
I mean, sometimes it's gone into, more than, sometimes you're obviously like in a relationship, sometimes you do things that do hurt the other person.
Absolutely. We're just saying, am I boring?
No. Not at all. I thought you were just saying the excuse of like, I may be a nightmare, but it's not boring.
Well, no, I am a little bit. I'm not saying it's like the best thing in the world, but it is, I do think.
No, you're never dull.
There is something to be said for keeping life interesting.
Yeah.
And I think especially, maybe it's to do with what you were saying, but the way the media landscape is now, and how I meet young musicians now who are they're much more career savvy than I was at my age. Like, they understand their brand and their presentation and the business they're building and their diversified income streams and all of this, like, by 20. And in some ways, it can actually make you can make more conservative decisions. Whereas I think we both come from the school of thought that number one, you have to follow what interests you. And then hopefully that follows by becoming culturally relevant or speaking to, an audience.
And Ben is the life of the consistent life of the party in our house. I mean, meaning not a party, but you're the most even, least moody, and also the most sort of upbeat of all the family members consistently.
Yeah, I just got that from my mom. She's 80 and she lives like a 60-year-old. She's dashing about and, it's I feel fortunate for that in that
and
sense. It's a bit genetic.
You've got a positive.
Yeah.
Not dull.
Got some spring in my step.
So life's not dull. And you mentioned before that you're both going to direct a movie. So I'm taking that as you guys use each other as a sounding board and assist each other with your creative endeavors.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, I am nonstop using Ben as a sounding board, and then sometimes you sort of not clam up, but I have to kind of remind you to kind of use me as a sounding board?
Well, it's more just, it's a classic masculine, feminine sort of thing, in our relationship where I'll be more ruminating quietly, and then I want to have a big moment where we talk about something, and Ione's much more flowing with it. But in general, everything we do, the other is intimately involved in, even if it's just as a support system.
And I could have that going, not that I love saying one's masculine and one's feminine, but I can go into that sort of, I get really interested in his career, and he'll be the one to sort of say, wait, let's kind of have a quote unquote meeting with you about what's going on with you, what's happening with you. And we do have this great, I don't know if it's manifestation or what you want to call it, but if we do sit together and start to talk and, dream, not to sound corny.
And walks are so good.
And
walking and talking.
And we just talk about what do we want the next whatever to look like. And of course, it's not exactly the way you talk about it, but it really does something kind of quite magical. It's so cool.
Totally. I think there's when any two people, it happens also, it's like Lennon and McCartney, it's when any two people get together and agree on a vision and get excited together, it's the sky's the limit. It's so much more powerful than one person.
When two become one. Wasn't that a Spice Girls song or something?
Speaking of teamwork, the Spice Girls, whatever.
Mate, I tell you, your latest single, Born for This Bullshit, did you guys collaborate on those lyrics? It's a great video too.
Thank you. With my music in general, I think it's similar, our original things, for Ione, her painting and acting, and for me, my singing and writing songs, we have it's more of a supportive, loving, just an ear for each other, I think. So with Ione's acting, I could never imagine, maybe if she's doing an audition, I'm helping her do the audition. Otherwise it's we really also, I think, trust each other as artists, that we each know what we're doing. But for me, I there's a thing I learned from Brian Eno's memoir that I use Ione for all the time, which is that when he said he would play people music that he was working on, not to hear what they said, but to feel how he felt in the room playing it for them. And I do that. Everything I ever do, part of the reason I communicate to Ione about it is because I see her as connected to a very authentic part of me.
Yeah.
And how it feels when I present her an idea or a work in progress or a seed or something is a good reading for me on how I feel about it at a deep level.
Yeah, and it's nice this film project is a little different because our other things are we give each other, like Ben was saying, we don't get too involved in, I wouldn't say, why don't you do a dance part in this song? Or if he wouldn't say, why don't you do this in that role?
Why don't you raise an eyebrow?
We realize that our creativity is very sort of sensitive and needs to be private. But with this film thing, it's fun because we do get to talk about ideas, and it's the one sort of meeting in the middle where we're not going to step on each other's toes or be insensitive or something, because we're, for the most part, but it's going to be been a fun project.
And all the co-production stuff we've done, like curating nights together of comedy and music
that's
and all
a
that,
lot
it's
of
always like
talking.
together. And so it's kind of nice, I think. It's probably much like your emotional life in marriage. Some parts are best kept with like separate and sacred, and some parts are full mergings, and then there's everything in between.
Yeah.
Look, Ali and I are both fangirling Ione over. I mean, you're part of the fabric of our growing up, and we've held this question. But the Say Anything movie that you did is such an iconic part of our growing up.
I was thinking about it the other day, actually, because I said to Cam, I just loved that movie growing up so much. It was one of my all-time favorites. And the thing about you, Ione, was that I always understood why John Cusack was so in love with you. And that's what sold the movie so well, that you were so gorgeous, like internally, like you could see the character was so lovely. And I remember going, I totally get why he's that madly in love with her,
Aww. That's so nice.
Is it something, though, that you because it's such an iconic film, and it's been that scene with the boombox gets repeated over and over again in different cultures and different ways. Is that something that you're constantly living with, that measurement of you, Ione, in the Say Anything? Do people bring you back to that a lot?
Like we just did? Sorry.
I like it. I mean, I don't know. It's really just been only good. It's not, I never got sort of typecast or held back by it. It's only been a nice thing, really, that people have loved that. Yeah, I mean, for me, I guess it's just been an interesting thing for me to sort of see what other things are in me, like this sort of young ingenue. I guess that could be sort of a personal thing that could hold me back. Like you could get stuck thinking, oh, I was just a good young kind of ingenue leading actress. And for some reason, I've never wanted to or had to leave my acting career. I've never sort of thought, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. Or luckily, there have been enough jobs to keep me kind of interested in going. And it's been fun. So lately, or like 10 or 15 years ago, it went more into sort of, I could do some comedy. And now I'm kind of experimenting with different characters. And as I get older and stronger, and I can pull more things out of my imagination and all of that. But yeah, I think maybe it does hold you back a little bit if you were praised or were sort of started as a certain thing. You've probably found that.
Well, I think we both have had the experience of there was something raw and like admirable in both of us that got our foot in the door that people recognized.
We have very similar career things in some ways, which has been really nice, actually. Like we started young with a bang.
Yeah.
And we've, had sort of, I don't know, just been able to ride on that, but also, times that are more dry and times that it sort of speed up again. And, we've had a similar trajectory.
Totally. And it's like, because by nature of it, if you start something at 14, 15, 16, like we did, you start without much of the technical side of craft.
Yeah, right.
You just go on instinct.
Yeah.
And there's a beauty to that. And that's what makes young performers so amazing. But as you get older, if you can hold on to that spark, but also you get better at your craft, there's actually a real power that comes that's a little less flashy, but I find it sort of more impressive. Like when you see people who have they've kept their innocence and merged it with life experience and wisdom and craft. And so that's been our journey of really that we've sort of both been
and maybe that's the difference with, I think we're interested in craft and we truly I truly do respect, actors in film and, painters and writing, and Ben, of course, music. And I think if you really respect it from an outside and a fan or just someone who's interested, you're going to work on that for yourself, I feel like if I had a stage mom and who just sort of pushed me out there and then it kind of ran its course. But I think I genuinely am interested and have respect and love for film. And, so I wanted to kind of roll up my sleeves and figure it out.
If we all did it the same way, it would be a pretty generic form, wouldn't it? But so we all come to it at different places and
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a big part of why I think for me, like all that spiritual seeking. At a certain point, I realized like, oh, I've got my practice. It's called my career.
Yeah.
And it's a place where I learn every lesson I need to learn. And it's amazing.
Your two daughters, are they interested in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, they actually are. I mean, my little one, I think she could kind of go either way. But you know how it is now. It's like, even if someone's a doctor, they're like, and I play guitar. Like, it's a nice world where it's more and more acceptable to sort of do a couple things. But yeah, my older one is at the moment working her way on the other side of the music business, the sort of agent side, but she also plays music. So she's definitely a music lover. But yeah, we'll see with the little one.
Yeah, I think we also have like, I mean, it's funny, as much as it sort of is like entertainment, it's sort of like is the family business. I think we also raise the kids to think that being creative it's really like a way of life, that you could do any job and still be a creative person. Who sets up their house in a creative way and does creative things with their friends and holds space for people to have nice experiences. Like, you don't have to be like in the arts technically to live a very like creative, dynamic life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just from one successful songwriter to a less successful songwriter, being myself. Do you have purple patches, or do you go the Nashville route and just sit down at 9 o'clock and try and write till 5 o'clock in the afternoon?
What's a purple patch? I don't know what that is.
Well, a purple patch when songs, like for me, sometimes songs, I'll get 3 or 4 of them at once. They'll just come down and they'll just be there, and it's like 2 weeks later I've got 4 songs that, wow, I really feel good playing these songs.
Yeah.
Whereas the other way is the work version.
Oh no, I'm definitely not office-like. Like I write for projects.
Okay.
And I generally, like, even if it's like, hey, I'm ready to make an album, then I'll start writing. But I don't write every day. And I look at it as like, I want to write when I want to write, when I have something to say.
Yeah.
I'm creative every day, but not always in that sense. Yeah. But I probably haven't written a song. I haven't written a song this year. Well, I wrote that one song for Nash's short, but I haven't, since I wrote this album and recorded it, I haven't written any more songs. I sort of now trust, because I've done it for so many years. I'm always thinking about songs, but I don't feel the pressure to like create them constantly.
It's good to hear, because there's so many different ways. Again, people create in different ways, and I've been working with a songwriter who works a lot with Nashville people, and they're machines.
Well, they're famously, they're like brill building. Yeah, it's an office job. I tend to I like to have a touch of that, but I like to think of it a bit more as a shamanic thing, that like it comes when it comes and you just give yourself to it.
Yeah. Hey guys, we do a thing called the 2-minute shower, where we ask you questions, you keep your answers short so we can conserve some water, even though it's raining outside. First question, both answer the question. What's your best quality?
My sense of humor.
My compassion.
Who do you admire?
Ione. You don't have to say me.
Your mother.
Good answer. She'll love that.
Yeah.
One person, past or present, you would like to spend the day with?
River Phoenix.
Sorry, I'm gonna pass. I don't know. Oh, the filmmaker Hal Hartley.
There you go.
Is there one moment in your life that you would like to go revisit?
Yeah, maybe. Oh, in a good way or a bad way? Or
Could
any
be
way?
either. Anyway.
Yeah, I was just thinking about my first big relationship, which was so stressful. And I would probably, if you could have that thing where you go back and tell yourself, like, get out of this sooner. I would probably revisit that and say, just like, don't waste your time for too long here.
Mine would just be times when I've said hurtful things, basically, because you can never take them back, and they become, there's repercussions, So even if they're not that important, I feel like there's moments I could just keep my mouth shut for the sake of the future.
What the world needs now is
the science to carbon capture.
That's a new one.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, can you give me a line to say? I mean, it's like, oh my gosh.
More streaming services.
Yeah, I think the world needs true collaboration.
I like that. And last question, your partner in one word.
Sexy.
Juicy.
Oh,
Just as a person, she's so juicy.
Oh, they're good. I like those.
What a pleasure it's been talking with you both today.
Thanks, guys.
Ben Lee, you guys are amazing, and what great insight. I wish we could talk more about the spiritual stuff and those crazy journeys that we take to get things.
Yeah, that's
Well, we can do a
way.
part 2 down the track or something.
Yeah,
would
I
be-
think there'd be a part 2, part 3, and onwards with you two. Lots of
That was so
information.
fun.
It would be so
Yeah.
fun.
Thank you so
Anyway.
much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
That was
Thanks, guys.
great. Very nourishing. Have a good day.
I love talking with those two.
What interesting careers they've both had, and parallel, and just really interesting. Famous from a young age. And to remain grounded and steady in amongst the world of Hollywood and acting and music from a young age. It's a lot to sort of walk your way through that, and they've done it really well.
Yeah, the word I wrote down was authentic.
Yeah.
And to retain that authenticity. And I love what they both said about, when you first start your career, you have your innate way of bringing what you bring, and then hanging on to a semblance of that as you grow and you learn technically. It just was really true.
Yeah, really terrific.
And they clearly have a great relationship.
Yeah.
They're lucky. They're fortunate children to have parents like that.
Indeed.
All right, we'll be back with another installment next week of Separate Bathrooms. Honey, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I love hearing your insight, and also you have such a warm way of talking with our guests, and I can just feel them relaxing when you start asking them questions.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're really good.
That's right back at you.
Thanks, honey.
Follow us on Instagram, Ali Daddo or Cam Daddo.
Cameron Daddo.
Cameron
Cam
Daddo.
Daddo's that other guy.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Don't follow Cam Daddo. Definitely Cameron Daddo. He's the dude. All right. Join us next week. Thanks so much. Thanks for listening.